It's Monday, August 11th, 2014. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, IT disasters. Have we done the show? I don't know. We're about to find out.
Let's do this.
It was a good weekend. Had a good barbecue, some hanging out. It was weird. It's always weird to me, though, that I'm not at Otakon, despite it having been so many years since we last went to one. But then again, I think about it, most of the people I know who used to go with me don't go anymore. They either go to PAX or MagFest.
Yeah, it's like I enjoyed every Otakon I went to, and I'm sure I would enjoy going to it even now, despite it still has some major flaws.
Well, one major flaw.
It has more than one major flaw, but
two. It's in Baltimore.
it has a lot of good. It has many, many good points as well. But when I look at like the big picture of like my year, it's like, man, my summer is just fucked if I go to Otakon.
Well, it's true, because this is like our one break between convention season and convention season.
Yeah.
In fact, we pretty much every year, it used to be like Otakon was the end of the summer because we'd go to this thing, and then we'd all road trip to like Wildwood, New Jersey, and have this crazy week of doing fucking nothing on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And now our summer ends by flying to Seattle for like a week and going to PAX.
Yep. That was a good upgrade.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Seattle's not as warm as I would like. I mean, it's not really beach weather out there. It's only like 80 degrees tops.
Oh, no.
Yeah, gotta go to the beach. I'm feeling beach. So yeah, it's Monday, news day, tech news.
All right, so this is a news. I'm not sure what to make of it, but it's on The Verge.
Uh-oh.
It says the headline is...
I'm really curious what you're about to talk about.
The headline is, scientists made a laser that can detect explosives from half a mile away.
That's culture type stuff right there.
Right, so it says, imagine a plane that can fly over large areas of land while identifying hidden stockpiles of drugs or explosives. They say there's a remote laser...
Wait, stockpiles, so not like an explosion.
No, it can detect material. So apparently it's using something called Raman scattering, which is where light goes through something and the light vibrates.
Raymond, like the name?
No, Raman, R-A-M-A-N.
Okay.
Ramen, like ramen, but you take out the E and replace it with an A, and it's not noodles anymore.
All right.
So basically...
Found some stuff. There's a Wikipedia page.
Right, you shoot a laser through something, and the light...
Hey, look what's on this page. A Feynman diagram.
Right. The light will scatter based upon the material it hits, and it will scatter uniquely, and you can identify molecules based on this. And you can make, I guess in theory, or perhaps in reality, they've made a device where you shoot a laser over an area in a burst of some kind, and over a kilometer away, you can tell if certain, molecules are present. So they can be like... Oh, yeah, there's TNT over there, for sure. Somewhere in that area that we shot this laser, this TNT, 100%. And it's like, whoa, is this for reals or not for reals?
Well, I don't know anything about this
Me either.
topic.
So let's discuss what if it was for reals.
If it's for real, that's really awesome.
But what are the implications?
Oh, you want to talk about the implications?
For scientists and also... terrorists.
Well, for
and normal
scientists,
people.
It allows interesting at a distance analysis of things.
Right, but you could go, for example, to the airport and there won't be drug-sniffing dogs. They'll just go bam with a laser and be like, well, there's heroin in your bag. We know it.
I would be 100% okay with that if they use technology to have actual security as opposed to security theater.
Cop drives down the house. Bam, there's THC in that house.
Well, you know what? I'm going to take a meta argument there. I'm of the mind...
Cocaine in that house.
...that if a society is going to have a law against anything, that society...
Without any search warrant whatsoever, just driving down the street shooting lasers at your house.
That society has to be comfortable with the idea that it would be theoretically possible to enforce that law 100%. If you have a law that you realize would cause societal issues, or you wouldn't be happy if that law were able to be, or could theoretically be, or was absolutely 100% enforced by magic, then that law should not exist.
They're just lasers, right? So I guess it's safe to shoot a person with them.
So as a result,
So
if the
I shoot
technology
Rim.
exists,
You said you're a vegetarian, but looks like you ate steak for dinner.
well, we can already do that mimetically. I mean, there are already a lot of algorithms that can detect to a reasonably high degree gender identity and orientation and political beliefs and all sorts of things.
Shoot laser at Rim. You
Just
know, Rim,
from,
you go to
like,
apply for
snippets of conversation.
You go to apply for a new job. They shoot you with a laser. Why is your stomach full of semen, Rim?
That's Gattaca. Are you okay with Gattaca?
I'm just saying.
Yeah. I'm saying that these technologies, if and when they do exist, cannot be avoided, and thus society has to adapt to them and not the other way around. So as a result, the first most important application I could see is obviously the sort of military application.
I think the most basic application is you're a scientist in a science lab. You have a little laser gun. You go, pew, like, oh, I have 2 white powders here. Which one is which? Pew, pew.
But imagine a world where I walk into the airport, and instead of the fake bullshit body scanners, there's a real body scanner. And I walk through it, and it detects if I have anything I'm not supposed to have, and that's it. And as a result, I don't have to take my shoes off. That is the human dream. One day. This is fascinating stuff. I mean, actually, there's a related it's not really news, but, and I'm not going to try to find the article right now, but a guy talked about DIY thing he was working on. But basically, you know the old spy thing where you point a laser at a window and you can record, you can hear like the sound in that room by the vibrations in the window? Like, that's real. That works.
Yeah.
You can make those devices.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that other thing of the indirect photography where the very fast cameras, you can take photos of areas that might be around corners based on reflections and things.
Mm-hmm.
So by combining those two technologies, you could record sound at a distance without there being like a window to look at. Basically, by doing high-speed video and looking at different sorts of anomalies, like a fluttering piece of paper inside of a room somewhere that you can't hit directly with a laser, if you can just get photos of it in any capacity and high enough speed photos, high enough resolution photos, you can reconstruct the soundscape of the room.
Mm-hmm. So
that kind of technology has pretty much the same ramifications of the technology we're talking about here. And society already has a way to deal with those things. I can, as a police officer, I can spy on people theoretically, you know, just de jure, well, not de jure, de facto, as much as I want. There's no physical thing stopping me from doing that. But if I arrest someone and the judge says, hey, how did you get this evidence? Then the guy could get off. And that's probably the best possible compromise with technology like this, because you can't physically stop it from being used. There's just no way. In fact, one of the culture books actually talks about that. Matter talks about that.
But there's no crime in the culture because nothing's a crime.
Yeah, so what about other societies, like primitive societies, right?
Just
so
absorb them into the culture. Who cares?
Say you live in our society.
Mm-hmm. And the culture's out there?
Yeah, so a higher level society might have a technology that has undetectable nanobots that diffuse throughout our entire planet and record literally everything that ever happens.
If a society like the culture exists, even if we're not a member of that society, our society effectively has the same laws of the culture.
Yeah, in a sense. But so what do you do? Like, what do you do if a technology exists in society like this?
It's the same so for example, to bring it to reality, right? Oh, copyright's a law in the U.S. Yeah, but I can just go to like almost any other country and it doesn't matter at all. So I don't have to obey it here either. Except
then you have the physicality of, well, I'm physically in the U.S. right now.
I'll be all right.
For now.
If there was no place to go. But if it's like the culture is just like, yeah, murdering people's okay. I can murder people and go to the culture. All right.
But I guess it just comes down to when there's technology that you cannot defend against. Like there's nothing you can do about it. Like a laser that can tell whether or not you're a vegetarian.
I can defend against it. A mirror.
You're going to coat your entire body in a mirror.
I'll be mirror man. It'll be so awesome.
You know what's funny? That's how armor works in the culture books.
Just mirror body?
Yeah, you basically mirror the lasers off of you.
Are all the ships just covered in mirror?
Well, they have fields, and one of the fields is like a reflective field. But then there's other kinds of weapons.
I just turn on all my fields.
Yeah. Fields
Baseball
are good
field,
business.
Soccer field.
They've got those.
Football field.
So, another interesting news, kind of on the opposite side of this, Yahoo has announced their intention. Now, Yahoo is an also-ran dead player in the tech space.
Yahoo's got some products, though, that aren't garbage.
Flickr.
The Yahoo Weather app's good.
Yahoo Games.
Yahoo Sports.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Name some more.
that's it.
Yeah. So Yahoo is completely irrelevant in the email
Oh, yeah,
space.
Yahoo owns Tumblr.
The only people... Yahoo is completely irrelevant. So Yahoo has a completely non-player email system. There are
A
people
lot
out
of people
there,
use it. A lot.
I know.
In
but
some countries, it's number one.
yeah, that amazes
Isn't it
me.
huge in Japan, I think?
It's huge in not India, because India they seem to use like
No,
MSN
India
stuff.
is Microsoft country.
Yeah. But I know some people who use Yahoo. But Yahoo, I boycotted a long time ago because of some China stuff. But all that aside, Yahoo has announced their intention to allow, and not just allow, because all mail systems effectively allow this, but sort of assist in using end-to-end PGP encryption of all email.
When you say end-to-end,
Meaning
which ends?
browser to browser.
So in my browser, I type an email.
Yes.
The JavaScript of the Yahoo web client
Uses my local private key.
uses JavaScript to encrypt the email.
Yes.
Sends it to Yahoo.
So it's stored encrypted on Yahoo's servers.
Right. It gets to Yahoo encrypted. It's encrypted by my computer. It gets to... Then I'm sending an email to someone who's also at Yahoo. And then
Yes.
right. What if I send an email to someone at another domain?
It just sends the encrypted mail. I have to have their
and
key.
then that person can't read the email
Well,
because they're
the
not
thing is,
using Yahoo mail
that's the
client.
problem with all PGP is that all these sort of trust network encryption mechanisms require me to have a trusted key of the person I want to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing they want to do, which will only apply within Yahoo, is have automatic key discovery handshaking,
Sure.
which exists. Like, you can do that. There's PGP key rings and PGP trust networks. Like, you can do that now. Nobody but the nerdiest of the crypto nerds
We'll
does
set that up because it's
Yes.
a pain in the ass.
I mean, even Will Wheaton, who uses this stuff, like, if you want to email him to this day, he's like, yo, at least use PGP to sign that shit. Even he does not, like, it's hard to interact with him via the public key networks of trust because that just, nerds do that. So Yahoo is going to make that easy and automatic for people who are using Yahoo to email Yahoo people. And ideally, that means that it'll work if you email non-Yahoo people, but you got to do the key exchange yourself. This is actually a big deal because no one has done this before.
Yeah, now what needs to be done to make this really happen is if like Google and Yahoo
Team up and share.
team up so that it works together automatically and there's a federated key exchange
Which, again,
that just works without people having to do anything except click send email. And by default, the encryption is all on. No opt-ins, just everything's on all the time.
yes, this is a huge
then
deal because individual
also what
humans
they should
do not have
do-
the capacity to do this themselves.
They should also make it by default, people who aren't Yahoo or Gmail, when you send them an email, it should send them the encrypted mail by default, and then make them be like, what the hell just happened? And you should have to go through a hoop to send them a non-encrypted one, and then people who aren't using Yahoo or Gmail will have to figure out, and suddenly everyone will start developing, and joining in on the club to make all the other mails compatible. Because
that what you propose is exactly why this is actually important news.
it's
If
like,
a
oh
major
shit,
email
everyone
provider,
at Hotmail's complaining because all the emails they receive are encrypted, and Google's like, tough shit. So suddenly Microsoft has to get on board. Otherwise, all emails coming from Gmail are unreadable.
Now, you could do this super nice. Like, you could have a system where it basically sends a person an email that says, yo, this email came from a person,
Everyone
but
with
it's encrypted.
Everyone with an Exchange server has to suddenly add in all this stuff.
But the fact that no one's done this before and that one of the major players, if you don't count Gmail, is actually doing this, it's a big deal because people might actually start using encryption, and it's interesting to see why it's happening. Yahoo and Google both, they need to have a good story on this stuff for their users because people are pretty mad about, at least people who know a little bit about the internet are mad about the current crypto spying issues. But two, by doing this, they themselves do not have access to the email anymore, and they can basically, anytime the governments of the world say, hey, they can say, not our problem, nothing we can do, math.
Yep.
So
They're basically, because they're always complaining, here's how many letters you get from the government asking for stuff all the time. We'll publish this. They're clearly mad about having to do all that work and spend all that money and develop systems to handle
even
that.
if they're evil and purely self-interested, it still
which
costs
give
money
them
to
no
deal with that
profits
shit.
whatsoever. They would rather not do that. So it's easier for them to just be like, oh, we're just going to encrypt all the emails. Then we won't have to answer the government anymore when they ask for emails. And it'd be
Thus, that old situation, if Hitler saves a puppy, he's still Hitler, but he still did something good. You want to trick the Hitlers of the world need to do good things, even if they're doing them for the wrong reasons. So as a result, if they do this, we don't need to trust Yahoo anymore at all.
Well, you need to trust that their encryption isn't bullshit.
Well, if it's PGP, if
if
it's just straight PGP with a key exchange,
you have to look at it.
yeah,
It's not,
yeah. But that's the thing, that the idea of encryption is that you don't have to trust the intermediaries.
You have to trust the code
You have
that
to
you're
trust the
running
code.
locally,
And you have
which
to
is
trust,
written by Yahoo.
and you have to trust that the endpoint you're sending the data to is itself trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
So the person I'm sending the email to, I have to trust that they're not going to just like forward it in ASCII to the NSA. So Google is also doing something interesting. This will probably take a lot longer because Google just takes forever to do anything. It amazes me that Yahoo is doing this encryption thing first. But Google has announced that they intend to start using the fact that a website encrypts itself, but with HTTPS, as a signal in their algorithmic ranking engine.
Yeah, whenever they do this, it's always so vague because SEO people and whatever, right?
Fuck SEO people, by the way.
And it's
if
like
you do that, you
it's like,
you
yeah,
are
this
the
will
problem.
affect a small percentage of searches in a very small way, but it will matter, and maybe you should, And basically, they just try to say these things all the time to sort of make web developers and people who run websites basically behave in the way Google wants them to behave. So Google basically says,
Which is great. Every website should always use encryption.
Basically, Google's like, we want everyone to use HTTPS. So let's just say this, and then everyone will have to.
Yep. But you know what? Again, if Hitler saves a puppy.
Yeah, the one thing with HTTPS is it does make like websites that don't need it and don't have sensitive information. Turning on HTTPS eats up a lot of CPU resources, makes your site slower. It's not 100% just better, and it's not turnkey either. You have to pay for an SSL cert, into the SSL cartel, and it's not, 100% good.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever tried to set up SSL certificates in like a standard, just like I've got Apache running, it's actually not that straightforward.
And you have to keep changing it all the time because you have to set like certain configurations, like turn on this cipher and turn off that cipher, make this cipher a higher priority than that one. And it keeps changing all the time as new vulnerabilities and different encryption mechanisms are discovered because that's symmetric encryption.
And also, you gotta make sure you know about like
encryption.
chaining certificates and what CAs are trustworthy.
It's not like a push button thing you can just do if you run a website. Otherwise, everyone would have done it already.
So I want to make a meta point.
It's also
there.
not 100% free all the time.
By Google saying this, if anything, it might raise the bar because imagine if 1% of the websites in the world that care about Google, so that's already a pretty small percentage, decide we should do this. The whatever IT guy works there is going to have to learn a little bit more than they already know to make that happen.
Or they know it already and just didn't do it.
I get the impression that most IT guys don't actually know how to make SSL work, and they're going to go to like TLDP and Apache's documentation and fumble around for a while.
Those pages already get mad hits.
Yeah, they do.
They've been getting mad hits for years. I don't know.
Too bad the TLDP is so out of date, it's almost a joke at this point. Things of the day. It was kind of funny that Scott's news involves Feynman diagrams, because my thing of the day is the 60 Symbols video that's not so much about chemistry. It explains what a Feynman diagram is and how to read it. It's 10 minutes long. It's really well done. And if you've ever seen, there's like two lines coming in and then a squiggle and then two lines coming out and like E's and Q's and lines all over the place. In your physics test book, in the chapter that in high school you probably didn't get to, this explains what that shit is. It's actually really straightforward unless you try to understand what it means.
All right, so check this out. Gilbert Gottfried.
I was about to say something that he said once.
Anyway.
And then I didn't, because it's kind of racist.
Yeah. And a lot of things. So.
I'm the pirate from Aladdin.
No, he's the bird from Aladdin.
I said the parrot.
Oh, parrot. I thought you said pirate.
No. It's hard to say words correctly while doing that voice.
I don't think is he actually a parrot, Iago, or is he some kind of other bird?
I'm going to look that up.
All right, while you're looking that up. So, the people from Cards Against Humanity sent him some money. and paid him to record some audio in an episode of some kind of MP3, whatever. It's on SoundCloud. Just listen to it. That's where my link is sending you. They paid him, right, to, I guess, number one, advertise Cards Against Humanity, and two, they made him read in a loud voice the speech from Independence Day. That's all there is.
He is a red lory, a species of parrot in the, I'm not going to say that word family.
Okay.
Psittaculidae.
Sure.
Yes.
Ooh, I could have one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's there he is.
How could you not listen to this? Therefore, it's a thing of the day. There were a lot of things of the day today.
Yeah, there was a lot of good stuff.
I got a lot stocked up. Meta moment.
The book club book that Scott will probably not read until it starts snowing is A Canticle for Leibowitz.
Another chapter or two.
Did you meet Leibowitz yet?
No.
Do you know who Leibowitz was?
A Jew.
Did you find a canticle?
No, isn't the whole book the canticle?
So you're still in... there's a bunch of priests, one of whom is kind of dumb, but also kind of smart.
There's the young guy who found the stuff underground.
Yep, who's both dumb and smart at the same time.
And there's the old guy who tried to make him shut up, but then gave up.
Shut up, shut up, shut up. I like that guy a lot.
Then there's a bunch of other random priests.
Okay. Okay. You haven't... So, no, like, I don't know, nuclear war has happened yet?
No.
Okay.
Maybe in the past, but not in the part of the book that I've read.
In the meta moment, we're going to be at the Penny Arcade Expo Prime in a few weeks.
Oh my God.
We're doing a panel called How to Win Every Game. We'll teach you how to win games like Go and football. We're not even joking.
No, we're not.
This might be the most well-prepared and greatest lecture that we have ever done.
Mm-hmm.
We're bringing some technology to assist us in doing this. It's on Monday at noon in the Sandworm Theater.
In other related news, we have 2 extra tickets to PAX Prime. I have them in my hands, and it is too late for you to get them because
Fuck you.
As soon as I get home, I'm going to go through and find everyone who tweeted appropriately and use random.org to select one of them to receive those 2 tickets in the mail.
There is no way this episode will be uploaded by the time or before that is announced. So
for
you're
free.
fucked.
So congratulations to winner that is yet to be named. I will direct message you on Twitter, and you'll have a certain amount of time with which to message me back with your address. If you fail, I will make you very sad and give them to someone else.
Yes.
Also, person who made an account that only has 1 follower and made the Twitter account yesterday, and the only tweets you have are trying to enter free PAX giveaways with us and other people, you're disqualified by complete arbitrary decision by me.
Yep. If you don't like it, sue us.
That's right. Come after me, bro. Deal with it.
Also, if you win and you sell the tickets on eBay instead of going,
you will still get them because there's no
Yes.
way for me to know that, but you will be on my shit list for all eternity. The end. You will not like that. I will make it unpleasant for you in some way possible.
We'll just hang out outside your house at night. Boo!
I have your Twitter account,
Boo!
and it's probably going to be a real person on Twitter, not a fake one, because, I'm going to filter out the bullshit ones like the one I just said.
Emily and I are also going to be at PAX Dev. So if any of you are going to be there and you want to hang out, we're going to be in Seattle for like 3 extra days before PAX.
I'm going to be chilling in New York, having a good time. Come keep me company because I'll be lonely.
Yeah. All that aside, I booked my tickets, so it's on. Scott is not coming, but I am going to PAX Australia in October.
The first PAX I will have missed since 2000. I've been to every single PAX since the year 2008.
Yes, this is a problem because so
for
have
that
I.
one.
That includes Australia, and the problem is, by going to this next PAX Australia and then by going to PAX South, when the 3rd PAX Australia comes around, I'm going to feel really shitty if I don't go. That's like when you've got a portal in Ingress you've held onto for 19 days.
See, at least by just going to the one, be like, all right, I did it.
Yeah, because your streak is still, you've been to the first PAX of every
I didn't
PAX
go to the first Prime.
Since you started going to PAX.
I didn't go to the first PAX Prime. I should have.
I said since
my
you, yeah, we
greatest
should've.
regret in life. I didn't go to every PAX, and I could have if I would have sacrificed everything else in my life.
You know, our lives are pretty good considering that literally our 2 biggest regrets.
What did I miss at PAX 4, 5, 6, and 7? There were 4 PAXs there.
Yeah.
What happened?
Do you regret not going to NecroWambaCon?
No.
I wonder how many people listening now even know what that is.
Some people know.
But there are people who go to PAX and don't know what Penny Arcade is.
Sure.
So, all that aside, IT and technology disasters, because there was a high-profile technology disaster this past weekend.
What was it?
So, Otakon, the convention we were talking about,
This is not high profile.
it's high-profile because this is an example of an IT fuck-up that was trivially avoided had people known better.
It was still not high profile.
Well, high-profile, what do you mean by high-profile? I mean, this is a
Amazon's
convention.
down for a long time. People can't buy anything.
That wouldn't be high-profile. That would be Mad Max.
Amazon's ordering system got screwed up. Everyone received the wrong package. Like millions of people, thousands.
That would just be hilarious because I'd keep whatever they mailed me and then I'd demand that they send me whatever I ordered
Yeah, but
because there's laws around that.
all Google searches returned wrong results for a day.
I'd use Bing for that day.
I'm just saying.
So Otakon, an anime convention that we joined the staff at one point, and we've been basically since we went to PAX Prime 08, we have told them every year they should mail the badges because handing out 30,000 physical badges the Thursday before convention is ridiculous.
Stupid.
Like, that's stupid.
Beyond stupid.
So we're going to skip the real solution to this problem, which was mail the badges. Jesus Christ, son of a bitch.
We've said that enough. We don't have to say it enough. Well, no, it can't be said enough. Mail the fucking badges.
But that does add a sort of core moral to our lesson right now. If you have a technology problem and the problem seems insurmountable, you need to examine your first principles. You need to decide whether or not your fundamental approach is correct or not. If your problem is something like, my database can't handle 12 billion queries per second, what the fuck is generating 12 billion queries per second?
Yep.
Like, that's your problem, not the database.
Mm-hmm.
So Otakon's problem was they're attempting to even do this in the first place.
Yes.
But assuming, taking that first principle, we have to do it physically at the convention, pass out 30,000 badges. What they did, and this is based on just me trying to piece it together from things they've said and other people have said, because they haven't given a very good official explanation. Something like 10 to 15,000 of those 30,000 people lined up Thursday night, and they had a number of computers on site.
And they need those computers because they need to, when you go up to the booth and say, I'm so-and-so, here's my ID proving I'm so-and-so, please give me my badge, they use the computer to look up if you are indeed so-and-so, how many badges you have paid for, and, if you even are a person who paid for badges.
Yep. And
there's no way you could look that up by paper. That would be the worst.
So they have a number of those, and those computers all have, I assume, a physical network cable connecting them to a network on site.
Yep.
So from what I gather, what happened was those computers, to authenticate whether or not you were the person, were connecting to a database. Now, that database...
A database containing the list of names and numbers of badges of all the people who registered for Otakon.
That database, as far as I can tell, was not physically on site, but it was hosted wherever their website is hosted. So, every time someone tried to get a badge...
Well, obviously, you need to have the database or the website is hosted because you register on the website, and then it needs to insert you into that database, so it needs to be accessible by the website application for wherever the website's hosted, most likely.
Yep, so logically, that is a pretty... it seems pretty straightforward.
Right, but then when the convention happens, you are going to have, your computers at the registration booths. Are they going to connect to the internet to attach to query that database? Or are you going to make a copy of that database and bring it with you to the convention on a computer?
So what I think happened, what their architecture was, these computers connected over the private internal network of Otakon, of the convention center, and then out the internet connection that the convention center had to the website, and that connection failed.
Of course.
Now, supposedly, their backup plan was to switch to the Wi-Fi at the convention center, which apparently had a separate egress route, maybe?
But it also is not going to work.
But it was super slow and overwhelmed by all the other people connecting to it and also didn't work very well. And as a result, thousands and thousands of people were unable to pick up their badges that night, independent of terrible mismanagement of the situation. Like, they didn't send anyone to go out and tell people to get out of line. They obviously had no plan whatsoever for what to do if the system failed. So, as a technologist, and before we did this show, I checked to make sure that conventions we work with do not have this vulnerability, because I would have felt really shitty if I said you should do it like X, and then a convention where I have some say didn't do it like X. Why didn't they have a backup plan that involved connecting to a server rather than just giving up?
Yeah, I mean, even, of course, PAX, right? But not just PAX as a whole. The PAX tabletop checkout library system, which is a tiny database of just barcodes and a few hundred board games. Even that system, which is like 2 laptops and a server, they bring the database physically with them to PAX on that server. There is no internet connection required whatsoever.
Yes. Now, sure, you need the database to be as up-to-date as possible, but at the same time, you need a local copy of that database, because let's say a change was made on the master database, like, I don't know, an hour into when you're doing registration, and then your internet connection goes down. You're missing that one change. 99% of the people trying to pick up badges could still pick up badges if you had a local replicated copy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does give people the ability to register for the convention, like the day of, on the website. You can pre-reg, bam, right away on the website, and you'll be in there, right? That's a good thing, I guess. But is it really that necessary when you can just buy badges on site?
Yep, exactly. So what they could have done is just...
in a much shorter line.
The day or two before before the convention, just lock the database, lock all the tables.
Say registration is closed.
Yep. Dump a copy of it to a server, and then drive that server to the site and plug it directly into the local network.
Done.
That would have solved this problem 100%.
Unless the local network failed.
So
that's very unlikely.
So,
much more unlikely than the internet failing.
So I would actually, because I've done this when I've run events in the past, if I were them, I would have with me a backup local network, meaning a bunch of consumer grade switches, 1 or 2 professional grade switches, a bunch of Ethernet cables, and a spool of cable that I could crimp off if I fucking needed to.
I have an even better idea. So this database is not really that complicated. You don't even need the whole database. All you really need is this one table that has names, right? Maybe the state to verify it's the right person, because you have duplicate names and stuff like that, right? Registration number.
Why not just replicate it to all the individual PCs?
And number of badges. Yeah. Just copy that freaking database, because like SQLite table on every single one of those computers. It's a standalone thingy.
Especially because
no application
even if
required.
The worst case scenario. So let's
you just put it on a USB stick. You have a fistful of USB sticks, like, here, everybody, and you just make sure none of them. There's a little security risk because someone someone has a list of names of people who went to Otakon. Oh no.
Well, it's
not like credit card numbers are on there.
Physical security could be done pretty easily.
Or email addresses. Sure, obviously.
Because obviously if the network fails, these computers are not on the network anyway.
Right.
But 2, physical security gets around the issue let's say the master database server locally fails, but I've got the replicated copy on all the local machines. In that case, sure, a person could theoretically go to machine 1 and then somehow go to machine 2 and get double their badge allocation. But the way the physical security works, once you walk into that place, you go up to a table, they take care of you. There's no path from a table to another table. That's trivially solved by one person watching the line.
Also, who is going to do that?
Who would know that you had a problem and that would work? How ballsy would it be to try that not knowing that they had a failure?
Yeah.
Or even then, say the master database goes down. Even if you don't have local replicated copies on all the PCs, all those PCs could still be networked to each other. I mean, the odds of your backup switch going down, these PCs are at most a few hundred feet away from each other. Like, this is not rocket science.
No.
These kinds of problems are trivially solved by even the most basic of IT procedure and backups.
Well, the fundamental problem is a problem made by many people who not only run conventions but go to them, and not just conventions, but pretty much anywhere, is that assuming there is going to be internet somewhere. Even
oh my God. I can't tell you how many panelists, like 11, came up to me at Kineticon in a panic. And they're like, yeah, the panel staff told me to talk to you. Our panel needs internet because we're going to show YouTube videos and we can't connect to the Wi-Fi. And also our tablet doesn't have a video output, so we can't connect it to the projector. It's like, really, kid? You ever been to a convention before?
It's not just, but I mean, conventions especially, but like anywhere you go, if you go to another person's office for a meeting to sell them something because you're a salesperson,
your entire demo better run on that local laptop you brought with you.
You cannot assume that business is going to have Wi-Fi for you to connect to the internet.
Let alone Wi-Fi that opens weird ports or anything.
If you go to a coffee shop to work, you cannot assume the internet there is going to be working and will be fast and reliable.
You can also not assume that your local wireless tether will work because, again, like say you go to a convention, there's 30,000 people there.
Right.
At least half of them have smartphones.
It's like you can go someplace and assume there's going to be electricity and water.
Yes, because if electricity and water, basically assume...
Then no one's going to go to that place. You can leave.
Assume that everything short of Mad Max will not be available. If the convention center doesn't have water, pool's closed. Like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But Wi-Fi is going to go down. There's going to be no Wi-Fi. And this applies to your daily life. If I travel somewhere and, like, we're driving long distance and I get, like, directions on my Google Glass or my phone, I at least have a cached local copy of those directions in case internet fails.
Yeah, I'm going to drive anywhere. As soon as you drive out of Wi-Fi range of your house, you need to be able to get where you're going if there is no internet whatsoever between the end of your driveway and your destination, which also will not have internet.
Yup. I usually print a fucking map if I have to.
The only way you can guarantee internet at your destination is it's also your beach house where you paid for Wi-Fi and internet and you know it's working. Maybe then it'll be trustworthy. Maybe.
Yup. So I can't imagine having a dependency for 30,000 people picking up badges on an internet connection from a convention center in Baltimore.
Yep.
So, have you ever run into, Scott, an IT disaster or an IT mess caused by someone who didn't quite think their architecture through?
Not really, because I don't work on a lot of things that other people fucked up, and I've been in one place for a long time. So when I showed up, there was some fuck-ups, but then once I was put in charge, I made everything legit, and it's been legit for years with no problems.
Not like the AWS, like you finally get in control of that thing?
Yeah, so when I got there, basically we were, there was an existing system we were replacing completely, but the replacement was already written by these people. And these people were like the design firm, and they wrote the back end also, but they had never written a back end before, so their back end was garbage, and the homepage made like 1,000 queries.
Nah.
So first job was, okay, we can't fix their code right now, but make it run. So apparently the IT guy had to do, I basically just was working on fixing the code, and the IT guy was making it run, but the IT guy was a Windows guy. He couldn't set up Linux web servers for shit. Even though we gave him instructions and drew diagrams like how to set it up, he had like this server with Apache proxying another server with Apache to serve the static files through like 3 different things before it actually made. And it's like, oh my god, no!
Wow, that's
when you visited the homepage, like images would load halfway, and then there'd be black on the bottom half because the proxy like timed out halfway on each request, and it's like, oh my god, what did you do? So. But yeah, eventually I fixed that, and then we rewrote, it took a year or so, we rewrote all the code to not be garbage, and now everything just works forever.
I think AWS is a common place people run into this especially, and servers in general.
Yeah, but I set up the AWS from scratch. There wasn't anything bad there to begin with.
I've had jobs before where there's issues, and eventually I say something to the effect of, look, let me log into your AWS and I'll take a look. Mm-hmm. And usually when I see that dashboard and I see what they do, play God. Why do you have 100 instances and 100 security groups? It's like, what are you doing?
They're all the default security groups.
Yes. They're not even default. They're all just like open to everything.
0.0.0.0.
Yep.
/0.
I ran into one a while ago, but I guess I run into these a lot more often. One, because I'm IT instead of, CS, so I deal, Scott dealing with servers and idiots.
Well, I mean, if you're a
and things.
programmer and you go to a lot of different places and you work at places that have existing code, you're going to see disastrous code. But if you work at a place where there's like just one code base and it actually got to be good, and that you're not going to see that. If you're a contractor or something where the people hire you for like little, you're going to see a lot of bad, for anything. Maybe it's not just programming. What if you're, I don't know, you install, you're an electrician, right? So you get called out to a house to fix something. Oh my God, look at the wiring on this. This is horrific. Oh my God. But if you wire up a new house, it's going to be great if you don't suck.
So my jobs, though, before my current job, like there was a time when I was basically like a project manager, like assistant kind of person for a hospital. So my job basically became go around, like they give me a folder, and the folder would be like, here's a project that has failed or stalled, or like we don't know the status of it, or like the guy in charge of it died, or like something weird. Mm-hmm. And my job would always be physically go to wherever this project was supposed to have been happening and figure out what the fuck happened to it and what to do to make it happen.
And every single one of them was horror.
Oh my God. Some of these things were pretty straightforward. Like I show up and it's just like, oh, no one ever actually ordered these servers, or the printers aren't hooked up because no one ordered network drops and there's no power in that room. But some of them would get down to the point of, like, I think the two most interesting ones is there was this set of like really expensive, like $30,000 printers. I don't know why this department needed these printers, but they needed them. And I go to see what's going on, and I see like, oh, there's network drops. There's power outlets.
Are there printers?
The power outlets are rated for the appropriate wattages for these ridiculous.
The printers are there.
Printers are there.
Do they have toner?
Yeah, that's all fine.
Do they have paper?
That's all fine.
All right.
So they're like, yeah, we tried to plug them in. It doesn't work.
Cables?
So I see these
crossover cables.
So I see these network jacks, and the first thing I notice that they're not labeled. So
they don't go anywhere.
So I ask around where the server closet is, or the wiring closet. No one knows because it's like a contract.
You just start opening every door.
So I basically eventually get a security guy with a master key, and I just start fucking opening all these doors.
And you see scary things behind each one.
So
Skeletons.
I found a wiring closet, and in that wiring closet was a bunch of switches, and they were active. And a lot of stuff was labeled. So I think, all right, this must be it. So I take my toners and my flukes, and I start trying to figure out like where this jack terminates in this closet. After about an hour, I determined that there is no physical way that jack terminates in that closet.
You hit every single port coming into the room?
It did not, so to this day, I do not know where those terminated. In the end, I just fucking cut them out, put new jacks in those walls over them with real cable runs that I had running to the proper server closet. Never figured out where those other ones went. I tried to trace it like through the wall with like a sort of like an induction device.
A little robot?
No, like an induction device.
Oh, where you put a thing up against the wall and goes...
So I put a toner thing on the cable, so it's like basically the cable turns into a giant antenna just broadcasting noise.
And then you rub a thing up against the wall and it beeps and you're next to it.
Yeah, and I followed it for a while.
Just like one of those stud finders.
Yeah, and then I lost the signal, and even like I opened the wall and I still couldn't figure out where the fuck it went, and we just gave up. So those cables are probably still in that wall.
If you pulled on the cables, were they attached to something at the other end?
They were, in the sense that I wasn't going to just start yanking on them.
Why not?
Because what if they unplug something else that's actually being used? I mean, this is a hospital. Like, for all I know, there might be like an old token bus running like an OR machine.
Okay.
Like, I can't just fuck around in these places. The other interesting one was more of a project management thing. A classroom was supposed to be built. It was supposed to have like 30 computers in it. I go to the site, and there's a cement building with no interior and no doors and no roof. And I go in, and I see a server rack with nothing in it in this exposed to the environment area, and nothing else. It is an unfinished building. And all I did was take a picture of it, and I wrote my report, and my report basically said, classroom wiring not complete because building not complete, see appended, and then there's a picture. And I faxed that back, and that was the end of it.
Okay.
I never found out what happened to that. No one responded and said, oh, there was just nothing.
All right.
Yeah. Let's see. The most recent one I dealt with was kind of interesting. Someone asked me, why the time wasn't synchronized
That's your job.
on these 3 servers.
That's your jam.
Yeah.
That's-
So
I mean, if it's like if there's a person falling off a building, Superman comes. If the clock is incorrect, Rim just comes and you can hear it from like 10 miles away.
So I go in, and
Someone's clock is wrong
the first thing I see
by 2 milliseconds.
is that one of the servers has a cron job that's calling like NTP date and an IP address every 5 minutes.
How do people end up with that solution so
Dude,
often?
That solution is recommended by a lot of really bad websites.
That's why.
That solution exists because people don't know what NTP does. Even
Who
better,
came up with that solution and spread it around to begin with?
I don't even know. But even better is I see people who have updated that advice. So instead of NTP date, it's like NTPD dash I think Q, like the one-off NTP command.
Why do they even have that command to begin with? When would you legitimately use it correctly?
I might use it with some other options to unboot. To like with a different
if there is
setting.
if there is no internal clock on the computer
Maybe. Or maybe if I
or the battery in the computer right
I
now.
might use that if I'm like starting a virtual machine.
But
But even then, if you do it and you don't understand what you're doing, like if someone thinks, oh, I'll have that run at boot, so it'll force the clock to at least be close, and then I'll synchronize normally, there's a big problem there. If you just run NTP like that, it'll detect that the clock's too far off and crash without setting the clock, just like the daemon does. So it won't actually do what they think it'll do. So then the other 2 servers have an NTP configuration. They're synchronizing to each other, and they're synchronizing to their local like fake time device. So they're basically synchronizing to their own local clocks and each other. And NTP had crashed anyway. So I set it up and I said, yes, it's fixed now. And then 4 months later, I get an email, and the email asked me, and I quote, why do these 3 servers have different NTPD configurations? So I'm like, what? I think I vaguely remember these servers. So I go in, and sure enough, they're the servers I set up. They're perfectly synchronized. Everything's perfect. Everything's wonderful. And basically the people just didn't really understand NTP, and they wanted to know why the servers didn't have identical NTP confs. And I was like, well, they're pairing with each other, so they have to have each other's IP addresses. The end. But it seems like those sorts of server things are what I would run into the most with servers. Like people learn how to set up a server by reading other people's blogs or by example. So if you have one bad server and that's the only server in a company, every new hire looks at that server and takes it as their examples.
Well, that's, it's a fundamental problem with people learning. When they learn a process on how to do something, they follow the process without actually understanding what it is that they are doing. So any variation from that, right? So you have people who, for example, learn how to use Microsoft Word to do a mail merge. And they remember, click on this menu, then click this, then type this, then click OK. And there's a procedure. And they remember that procedure precisely. And if Microsoft Word changes, or if for some reason that exact procedure doesn't do the thing that they need done, they're clueless because they don't actually understand or read or know anything about what they're doing. And it applies to every kind of education whatsoever. Someone learns how to pump gas. They go to pump gas, lift this lever, and they go to a different gas station where the pump isn't exactly the same. And now they don't know what the fuck to do because they don't understand the fundamental concept of pumping gas. They simply remembered these steps and don't actually think about what the hell it is they're doing, or incapable of understanding what it is that they're doing.
So I think there's a more subtle thing that happens here, because there's another option, because that's the option of me. When I would show up at a place and I'd see a server and the server is really badly configured, rather than looking at it and going, oh, I guess that's how I should set up servers, I would loudly go, who the fuck set this up and what the fuck is wrong with this server?
Because you can tell that it's bad because you actually understand it, as opposed to just assuming that there's this procedure you follow at the end and not being able to judge, or, you don't have a comprehension of the system.
But I think the places that have bad IT in general will find it very difficult to hire good IT, because good IT will either want a lot of money, or good IT will come and then immediately try to redo everything from scratch, because the path to building a new server from scratch, as opposed to taking an old server and fixing it,
is shorter. It's much shorter.
It's not only shorter, but I think the latter is actually impossible.
Well, Also,
Like today, I found this old server, and they were like, "Yeah, you got to fix some vulnerability." So I log into it. I'm like, "Oh, this is Susie 10. All right." So I Google
what? How old is that?
So I Google
What year is that from?
so I go on Google to figure out what the fuck package manager Susie uses, just because I don't even whatever.
I forget the name of it.
There's like this Zephyr.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
And there's a couple other ones too. So there's like this Yast tool that also does like configuration.
Yeah.
So I type Yast, and it's like Yast starts, but it's like not configured and can't connect to the outside. It's like whatever. So then I type the name of the other thing. It's like command not found. I'm like So I responded. I was like, yeah, there's no way to fix this server.
Build from source.
Yep.
Rebuild new server.
Just install like fucking CentOS at this point. Like I don't even care.
Copy whatever this server's doing to a new server.
Yep. Don't copy your opt directory or whatever it is that you do stuff in over. You gotta build that shit from scratch too, guys. I can't tell you how many servers I've seen that are messed up because like someone copied like user sbin or like opt just across. A lot of people just put everything that matters to their business in opt. And their procedure for building a new server is something like install the server, copy opt from this particular server, and then do a whole bunch of chones on it.
No, nothing. Any server that I have, you know how many files are in opt? None. No files are in opt ever.
I have a lot of shit in opt, but that's because I'm always, everywhere I've worked, there's a lot of like third-party software that's usually monolithically packaged because people can't deal with dependencies, and fucking nobody in the world seems to know how to package software. Like everywhere I've ever worked, hey, can you make that as an RPM? The response to that question ranges from no to what's an RPM. But I think
I'll make you all the debs. Any debs you want.
I think the biggest thing I've ever run into, and I want to give some specific advice to you kids, if you work anywhere and any procedure you ever look at for setting up a server says disable IP tables.
What?
And at no point does that procedure say re-enable IP tables.
Why would you disable IP tables?
The majority,
even if you have no IP tables rules,
I think
leave it on anyway. It doesn't do anything if you just leave it on.
But a lot of times there's a rule that they don't understand.
I'm sure, and the thing is, there's probably going to be rules in there. It's probably not no rules.
Yeah. I would say that the majority of the servers I have ever touched in my life that were not built by me had IP tables disabled when I logged in.
What the fuck?
Because people don't understand
the majority
how it
of
works.
servers I touch have IP tables enabled with no rules.
Which is bad, but
well, usually it's like they just network
you should
level.
at least have the one rule that blocks all local broadcast traffic and blocks all local traffic that's not directed at you in case some bullshit happens on your network. Because I've seen, so here's the situation. You've got a computer on a switch, like all computers should be. So as a result, you never see any traffic except traffic that's directed at your computer.
Sure.
That's fine. But switches will usually send you also anything that at the low level is broadcast traffic. 99% of the time, broadcast traffic is malicious or useless. Might as well just have a line at the top IP tables that says like drop, not log, just drop. That shit. Just get it out of your hair. If you're not doing anything with multicast, you just drop multicast too, because why even send that up the stack?
Why don't you write a little tutorial on that?
There's a lot of tutorials out there that tell this advice. I don't need to write a better one. But, dude, people will install stuff and then it doesn't work. And then the first thing they do is disable IP tables because they assume that it's blocking something. They just like,
why don't you just open the one thing that's being blocked?
Why don't you just look at var log IP tables and see if that's actually what the problem is?
It's a good idea too.
I think a lot of people disable IP tables. You don't want to know what the problem is. They disable IP tables because that's like part of their standard troubleshooting procedure.
How did they get that standard? I've never had that as part of my procedure ever.
Yeah, because you're smart. Because once in their life, something was blocked by IP tables. It was fixed by blocking IP tables, so they added to their script of reboot the computer, disable SE Linux, disable IP tables.
Disable all the important things.
Granted, you should disable SE Linux. I've never used it effectively.
Well, I mean, SE Linux is just...
God, as a professional, have you ever had a production environment running a configured SE Linux in a capacity where it did something you could say specific?
No.
that it did. Yes, that's my point.
But if I was in a serious thing where security mattered a ton,
Yeah, like the financial world, I don't think anyone in the financial world has ever enabled SE Linux on purpose.
I mean, it's on by default in certain distributions.
Yes, and the first thing they do is disable it.
No, the first thing you do is basically as you're setting up the
Or they set it to like permissive mode.
Well, no, what happens usually nowadays is as you're setting up the machine, if it's a distribution with SE Linux by default, you're going to bump into it where it's going to stop you from doing things. And you're saying you have to be smart and you have to know, oh, is the thing that I'm doing actually the right thing to do? Have I been doing something wrong my whole life? And you Google it and make sure the thing you're doing is indeed the thing you're supposed to be doing. And then you make a specific exception. You say, okay, SE Linux, I'm going to do this thing. Let me do this. I'm root. I swear to God. And then it lets you do the one thing, and it continues to do all its other protections that you don't even know about.
Yep. So it's funny you bring that up because that's the way smart or at least competent IT people should do their job. If you're going to break a rule, you should understand why you're breaking it. It's the same thing in music theory. So if a program is blocked because IP tables is blocking a port, I look in the log first to see if that's the problem. And if it is, then I make an exception for that problem. I don't just assume that IP tables will get in my way because reasons. So with SE Linux, you want to know why I think most people disable SE Linux?
It stops you from doing anything.
Because they copy opt from some other fucking computer and the dates on
SE
the files.
Linux is not going to let you run that shit.
Well, even if it will, the reason it won't usually that I've seen is because some bit, like a UUID or whatever is wrong, or because the time that those files was created ends up being in a time in the future because NTP was also not set up right.
You can just wait 10 minutes and then suddenly it'll work.
So the problem is that usually that time in the future is some like made up number, or the time is 1974 on those files.
That's a problem.
So the perfect storm of NTP is set up wrong, IP tables is set up wrong, possibly causing NTP to not work, and some directory like opt or sbin was stupidly copied from another server. That is the perfect storm of SE Linux just giving you errors you don't understand.
If you had just used like rsync with like -m time or something, I forget the flag, you would have the right times.
Yeah, but I want to point out, Scott and I don't you don't remember. You'd have to look up like the exact options in rsync.
I know how to type man rsync.
Yeah, that's why I love one of my developers. The other day, we were looking up some stuff. And
also, I would not only would I not be copying opt from one computer to the other, but if I was, I would be using rsync.
We see a file format. We're like, what the fuck is this? And the developer's like, IM's like, here's the command that I use to generate that. And it's like T-shark and a whole bunch of
that guy
options.
just remembers that command, copies and pastes it, has no idea what it does or how it
he
works.
wasn't the problem. This isn't that problem.
Yeah.
So we look at the command, and like I do packet capture a lot. But every time I do, I type man T-shark because I don't fucking remember all those filter details. No one does, unless your job is just that. So we both look at this command. Neither one of us says anything, and he just types man T-shark.
Yep.
And I gave him the silent bro fist from behind. So what's the moral of this, I guess? You learn from the mistakes of others.
Monday show ideas. We need more of them.
Yes. Learn from the mistakes of others. Think about what you're doing.
If you're copying pasting commands, just typing them in, you're doing it wrong. If you don't understand every single thing that you are doing fully, 100%, you have failed. Even if in the end it works, you fucked up.
When I installed that fucking Linux from source, Gen 2, back when we were at RIT, I understood about 40 or 50% of what I was copy pasting to bootstrap that thing. But also, kind of an aside, if you're setting up a system of any kind, writing code, anything, think about the things that could go wrong. Even if you don't do anything about them, if you like deploy a system and then like a week later something goes wrong and you didn't at least anticipate the possibility of that going wrong, you're a failure. You've got to think like the most horrible pessimist in the world, like the Otakon example. If I were in charge of that department, I'd be thinking, so what if the internet goes down? What are we gonna do? Fine. What if the power goes out? What are we gonna do? Fine. And the answers to some of those questions might be, we shut the fuck down and don't give out badges, or we break out the paper copies. The fact is, even if you don't have a contingency plan that actually solves the problem of the ridiculous failure, you have to at least have a plan. The plan might be give up and go home.
It might be. It's like, oh, we actually have to tell these people, don't wait in line anymore.
Yeah, like in the like some crazy financial thing. Like you might have a plan. Like even when I worked in like a broker dealer, we had plans that said things like, if the trading system cannot be brought up within X minutes after whatever outage, like multiple site failure, the continuity plan after that was a business plan that was like, call our customers and tell them we're down. Update our website to tell people we're down. Disconnect all of their fixed sessions because we're down. It's okay to have a plan that says we're fucked. This is what we do once we're fucked.
You can't just do nothing.
Yes.
Or maybe maybe do nothing's the right answer, but at least, you need to know why do nothing's the right answer.
I can imagine contingency plan that says, if the backup fails, leave the office, change your name, never show up to work again, cash that check. This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
Good morning! In less than an hour, an aircraft from here will join others from around the world, and you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind. Mankind! That word should have new meaning for all of us today. We can be consumed
one day. This is fascinating stuff. I mean, actually, there's a related it's not really news, but, and I'm not going to try to find the article right now, but a guy talked about a DIY thing he was working on. But basically, the old spy thing where you point a laser at a window and you can hear like the sound in that room by the vibrations in the window. Like, that's real. That works.
Yeah.
You can make those devices.
Mm-hmm.
So that other thing of the indirect photography where the very fast cameras, you can take photos of areas that might be around corners based on reflections and things.
Mm-hmm.
So by combining those two technologies, you could record sound at a distance without there being like a window to look at. Basically, by doing high-speed video and looking at different sorts of anomalies, like a fluttering piece of paper inside of a room somewhere that you can't hit directly with a laser, if you can just get photos of it in any capacity and high enough speed photos, high enough resolution photos, you can reconstruct the soundscape of the room.
Mm-hmm. So
that kind of technology has pretty much the same ramifications of the technology we're talking about here, and society already has a way to deal with those things. I can, as a police officer, I can spy on people theoretically, just de facto, as much as I want. There's no physical thing stopping me from doing that. But if I arrest someone and the judge says, hey, how did you get this evidence? Then the guy could get off. And that's probably the best possible compromise with technology like this, because you can't physically stop it from being used. There's just no way. In fact, one of the culture books actually talks about that. Matter talks about that.
But there's no crime in the culture because nothing's a crime.
Yeah, so what about other societies, like primitive societies, right?
Just
so
absorb them into the culture. Who cares?
Say you live in our society.
Mm-hmm. And the culture's out there?
Yeah, so a higher level society might have a technology that has undetectable nanobots that diffuse throughout our entire planet and record literally everything that ever happens.
If a society like the culture
have actual security as opposed to security theater.
Cop drives down the house. Bam, there's THC in that house.
Well, you know what? I'm going to take a meta argument there. I'm of the mind
There's cocaine in that house.
that if a society is going to have a law against anything, that society
Without any search warrant whatsoever, just driving down the
That's-
street shooting lasers at your house.
that society has to be comfortable with the idea that it would be theoretically possible to enforce that law 100%. If you have a law that you realize would cause societal issues, or you wouldn't be happy if that law were able to be, or could theoretically be, or was absolutely 100% enforced by magic, then that law should not exist.
They're just lasers, right? See, I guess it's safe to shoot a person with
Yep.
them.
So as a result,
So
if the
I shoot
technology
Rim.
exists-
You said you're a vegetarian, but looks like you ate steak for dinner.
well, we can already do that mimetically. I mean, there are already a lot of algorithms that can detect to a reasonably high degree gender identity and orientation and political beliefs and all sorts of things.
Shoot laser at Rim.
Just
Rim,
from,
you go to
like,
apply for
snippets of conversation.
You go to apply for a new job. They shoot you with a laser. Why is your stomach full of semen, Rim?
That's Gattaca. Are you okay with Gattaca?
I'm just saying.
Yeah. I'm saying that these technologies, if and when they do exist, cannot be avoided, and thus society has to adapt to them and not the other way around. So as a result, the first most important application I could see is obviously the sort of military application.
I think the most basic application is you're a scientist in a science lab. You have a little laser gun. You go, pew, like, oh, I have 2 white powders here. Which one is which? Pew, pew.
But imagine a world where I walk into the airport, and instead of the fake bullshit body scanners, there's a real body scanner. And I walk through it, and it detects if I have anything I'm not supposed to have, and that's it. And as a result, I don't have to take my shoes off. That is the human dream.
That can detect explosives from half a mile away.
That's culture type stuff right there.
Right, so it says, imagine a plane that can fly over large areas of land while identifying hidden stockpiles of drugs or explosives. They say there's a remote
Wait,
laser...
stockpiles, so not like an explosion.
No, it can detect material. So apparently it's using something called Raman scattering, which is where light goes through something and the light vibrates.
Raymond, like the name?
No, Raman, R-A-M-A-N.
Okay.
Ramen, like ramen, but you take out the E and replace it with an A, and it's not noodles anymore.
All right.
So basically,
found some stuff.
You
There's a
shoot,
Wikipedia page.
no, you shoot a laser through something, and the light.
Hey, look what's on this page. A Feynman diagram.
Right. The light will scatter based upon the material it hits, and it'll scatter uniquely, and you can identify molecules based on this. And you can make, I guess in theory, or perhaps in reality, they've made a device where you shoot a laser over an area in a burst of some kind, and over a kilometer away, you can tell if certain, molecules are present. So they can be like, oh, yeah, there's TNT over there, for sure. Somewhere in that area that we shot this laser, this TNT, 100%. And it's like, whoa, is this for reals or not for reals?
Well, I don't know anything about this
Me either.
topic.
So let's discuss what if it was for reals.
If it's for real, that's really awesome.
But what are the implications
Oh, you want to talk about the implications?
for scientists and also terrorists?
Well, for
and normal
scientists,
people.
it allows interesting at a distance analysis of things.
Right, but you could go, for example, to the airport and there won't be drug-sniffing dogs. They'll just go bam with a laser and be like, well, there's heroin in your bag. We know it.
I would be 100% okay with that if they use technology to
Exists, even if we're not a member of that society. Our society effectively has the same laws of the culture.
Yeah, in a sense. But so what do you do? Like, what do you do if a technology exists in society like this?
It's the same reason, like, so for example, to bring it to reality, right? Oh, copyright's a law in the U.S. Yeah, but I can just go to like almost any other country and it doesn't matter at all. So I don't have to obey it here either.
Except then you have the physicality of, well, I'm physically in the U.S. right now.
I'll be all right.
For now.
If there was no place to go. But if it's like the culture is just like, yeah, murdering people's okay. I can murder people and go to the culture. All right.
But I guess it just comes down to when there's technology that you cannot defend against. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. Like a laser that can tell whether or not you're a vegetarian.
I
at
can
a
defend
distance.
against it. A
I mean-
mirror.
You're going to coat your entire body in a mirror.
I'll be mirror man. It'll be so awesome.
You know what's funny? That's how armor works in the culture books.
Just mirror body.
Yeah, you basically mirror the lasers off of you. Oh,
Are all the ships just covered in mirror?
well, they have fields, and one of the fields is like a reflective field. But then there's other kinds of weapons.
I just turn on all my fields.
Yeah, fields
Baseball
are good
field,
business.
soccer field,
They've got those.
football field.
So, another interesting news, kind of on the opposite side of this, Yahoo has announced their intention. Now, Yahoo is an also-ran dead player in the tech space.
Yahoo's got some products though that aren't garbage.
Flickr,
The Yahoo weather app's good.
Yahoo Games.
Yahoo Sports.
Yeah,
Anyway,
name some more.
that's it.
Yeah. So, Yahoo is completely irrelevant in the email
Oh yeah,
space.
Yahoo owns Tumblr.
The only people, Yahoo is completely irrelevant. So, Yahoo has a completely non-player email system. There are
A
people
lot
out
of people
there,
use it. A lot.
I know.
In
but,
some countries, it's number one.
yeah, that amazes
Isn't
me.
it huge in Japan? I think.
It's huge in not India, because in India they seem to use like.
No.
It's Monday, August 11th, 2014. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, IT disasters.
Have we done the show?
I don't know. We're about to find out.
Let's do this.
It was a good weekend. Had a good barbecue, some hanging out. It was weird. It's always weird to me though that I'm not at Otakon, despite it having been so many years since we last went to one. But then again, I think about it. Most of the people I know who used to go with me don't go anymore. They either go to PAX or MagFest.
Yeah, it's like I enjoyed every Otakon I went to, and I'm sure I would enjoy going to it even now, despite it still has some major flaws.
Well, one major flaw.
It has more than one major flaw, but
Well, two. It's in Baltimore.
it has a lot of good. It has many, many good points as well. But when I look at like the big picture of like my year, it's like, man, my summer is just fucked if I go to Otakon.
Well, it's true, because this is like our one break between convention season and convention season.
Yeah.
In fact, we pretty much every year, like it used to be like Otakon was the end of the summer because we'd go to this thing, and then we'd all road trip to like Wildwood, New Jersey, and have this crazy week of doing fucking nothing on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And now our summer ends by flying to Seattle for like a week and going to PAX.
Yep. That was a good upgrade.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Seattle's not as warm as I would like. I mean, it's not really beach weather out there. It's only like 80 degrees tops.
Oh, no.
Yeah, got to go to the beach. I'm feeling beach.
Mm.
So, yeah, it's Monday, news day, tech news.
All right, so this is a news. I'm not sure what to make of it, but it's on The Verge.
Uh-oh.
It says the headline is...
I'm really curious what you're about to talk
The
about.
headline is Scientists Made a Laser